Good morning, everyone. Good evening and afternoon, wherever you are in the world. It's a bit of a change of host today. Emilio can't be with us today, unfortunately. Him and John are now test flying their spaceship, so yeah, they'll be off for a while. I'm Robert, one of Emilio's good friends, and I'm actually honoured to do his radio show today, which is quite amazing because I've never actually really done a radio show for myself, so this will be the first time. Yeah, we've got a guest on today, Rena. You've probably heard her on the airwaves before. She's been quite vocal in a lot of ways. She's quite an amazing person, really. She's doing a lot of really good things in the community and working with different sorts of groups. She's been quite active in the OP movement as well as myself. So that's probably something we will talk about today. There are a few things we're going to touch on as well, just local issues that we have in Australia here. I'm sure it probably rings true as well in America and places like that. But that's something we'll get into later on. And obviously a lot of people are aware of the One People movement that's been going on. Guys, it's just an amazing ride I've had regarding this as well. So it's one of those amazing journeys that I think everyone's going on. And anyway, yeah, I'll just bring Rena in. And Rena, are you there? Hello? Okay, so we haven't got Rena at the moment. Okay, something I really want to talk about today. I've been doing a few of these little videos and stuff like that. I'm talking about OPPT, well, now called the One People. It's a crazy thing because I've had an amazing journey over the last sort of 5 to 6 months. Excuse me, 1 second, people. I'm just having a problem here. But yeah, I've had a bit of an amazing journey over the last couple of months. Where do I start? It's absolutely crazy. Okay, now Rena's hung up. I'll just get her back on. Yeah, I've had an amazing journey. I've now come to realise that things aren't quite the way they are. I mean, we all are thinking about this as well. I think it's one of these times in our lives where we're starting to question everything. And I mean, this is actually a good thing. We question who we are, why we're here. And I mean, Emilio's show is a remembering, so we're actually trying to remember what our purpose is. You know, it's absolutely amazing when you actually get to find out who you really are, because it's a journey in itself. Now, so I'm just going to pull Rena back in because she's dropped out for a second. Yeah, so my journey really started way back when. You know, it's we all start in certain aspects of the conspiracy type theories and all of the other things, but it's led really me to this point, and this point is now. Well, now I know who I am. I know why I'm here, and now I know with the technologies that are out there today, and we use these technologies to the best of our ability and trying to understand them. Well, that is the most important thing for all of us to understand, is how we can use these and utilise these in our own lives. And this is what the basis of most of my videos are trying to do, is trying to tell people that they have this ability. You just to remember how to use it. And my journey of remembering is still going on, so we can all help each other along the way. But yeah, it's absolutely an amazing journey that I've come to. So it's one of these, yeah, it's one of these things that I think is very strange, because we need to realise that things aren't always apparent to you in your perception of your reality. I mean, it's very weird how we all walk along life thinking that this is how it is and this is the way it will be, and you know. But when you actually open your eyes to it all, it's very amazing stuff. It's it's very amazing. But anyway, I think I have Rena back.
Yes, you do.
I lost you for a minute. I didn't know what happened. I think you.
My laptop just froze.
Okay.
And this laptop's perfect. I don't have any problems with it. It doesn't freeze when I'm running any other program.
Oh, okay.
All of a sudden, it just froze. Oh. And it must have been, I saw Emilio flying past, so it must have been the electromagnetic interference that took Skype out.
Yeah, come on. You know, you want to land that ship, mate. We're trying to do a radio show here. No, that's good. That's good. So, Rena, you know, I've been trying to sort of give you a little introduction. I will. Now, Rena is she's had an amazing experience along the way. I'm sure she could tell you that. But you know, she's got an amazing bio. This thing could go as long as my arm. She's actually like a part-time filmmaker if you really want. She's in IT, web design. I mean, she's into a lot of fantastic stuff. And
the hardest job is being mum.
Yeah, exactly. You know, she's a mum of two as well, and it's just crazy. So, I mean, there's just a little introduction for Rena there. Now, Rena, you tell me a little bit about yourself. I mean, tell me a bit about your journey you've had and where you've come. And I was going to touch upon the OP movement and that, and how you tie into all of that. So, if you'd like to just let us know what you're up to and pretty much who you are, basically.
Well, it all pretty much started with the council. I mean, I was pretty active in the community prior to that, and just doing a lot of research, you know, going down all these rabbit holes and, you know, researching all sorts of weird things, and including, you know, pretty standard things like banking and how they create money out of nothing, and you research all these seemingly, you know, unconnected things, and I think you get to a point in your research where you start to connect the dots with things that were seemingly unrelated that you might have researched, say, a year before. And sometimes when you review some of the research you've already done, you have a different understanding of it because you've got more pieces of the puzzle that you kind of collected along the way. So, and you know, a lot of the stuff that's being put out there is just, some people have done some amazing research, some really amazing research, and a lot of the conclusions that, you know, that I've come to and some of the things that I've realised would not have been possible without the information that other people put out there. So even the people that do put out, you know, new information, you know, I don't believe anyone can take credit for any new information, because that new information was actually a sort of a picking up the pieces along the way. Yeah. So, and so, you know, if I have any new information or anything like that, I don't think it would be right for me to take the credit for it, because really, at the end of the day, I was just the person that put the pieces together, who happened to put in the time and the effort to put the pieces together. But the information is not new. It's all there. It's just a matter of, you know, people wanting to, people having the I guess the drive to seek the truth and to seek answers.
You know, I've always believed that we've always known the truth. It's just
we do.
We have to realise that the truth is there. And if you want to perceive your truth to be anything other than what the truth really is, that's fine. You know, that's a perception of what you see the truth to be. But the truth is always the truth, right?
Well, and what you said is absolutely correct. We all know the truth, but the thing is, we each have a piece of the truth, and that's why it's really important. And this is what a lot of people in the, you know, I don't know what you want to call the movement, whether you call it, you know, a freedom movement or whatever, which is something that I think, you know, humanity is striven towards for thousands of years.
Sure.
You know, it's not a phenomenon just in, you know, our century.
No.
It's something that humanity has been doing for hundreds and thousands of years.
Millennia.
Yeah. But and the goal has always been, and the biggest sort of hurdle has always been the unity.
Yeah.
And the reason why this is the understanding I've come to, the reason why that unity is important is because of what I just spoke about a moment ago, that I've just come across gems of truth and collected them all to create a new truth.
Yeah.
Do you get what I'm saying? Like a new take on something that was already out there. So if we all have a piece of the truth, if we're united, that's it, just there.
Yeah.
You know, it's all done.
I think you touched upon a really important point there, because unity is something I think we're actually lacking at the moment. I think there's a lot of people...
that's been the obstacle, the whole, you know.
Yeah, it actually has, and I think that this is the time we're going through a time of change, and we can actually feel it energetically, physically, mentally. We're feeling this on a major scale. I mean, a lot of people probably don't actually recognise that change, but at the time of that change, it won't matter if you recognise it or not. It will just be there.
Yeah,
like it always has been there. But as I say, Emilio called the show so apt. It's the remembering. We're going through this stage of remembering. It's the stage that even the Mayans in their ancient texts, they talk about this stage, this era. They talk about the era of revealing. It's called the age of revealing. And this happens to coincide with the new equinox of Aquarius. Now we're moving into this new vision.
And that happened on the 13th of May, right?
Well, that's right. Yeah. The 13th of March, or around about that date, if you look to the east in the sky, you'll see Aquarius in the sky.
Right.
So we're actually moved into the age of Aquarius now, which, you know, when we look at the old biblical text, it was the age of Pisces, because you can only know that by looking at cars and they've got these fish on the back saying God loves you and stuff like this. Well, that's not a dig at anyone religious, I can tell you, because it's quite important when you think the new eon is here, and the Mayans and all of the Sumerians and even the Mesopotamians, they all talk about this time, and we can see it unfolding in front of your eyes. And all it takes is for you to just sit back, take another look, because you can see it in all aspects of life now, you know, and things are moving very quickly, which I'm really excited about, because the One People movement has actually kick-started or really restarted people's fire in their bellies, you know.
Yeah.
They've really sort of touched upon a lot of really, really good sort of energetic vibes that a lot of people can grab onto. And I mean, it's one thing, this is maybe a tool to unite people, because if you call yourselves a One People, then we can all have something that we relate to.
Yeah.
Instead of saying, oh, I'm doing this on my own and I'm doing that on my own, this little group is doing this little secret thing. I mean, it's really irrelevant to all the things that we know and we love to work on and we love to do and all this sort of stuff. At the end of the day, I think it's actually irrelevant when you look at the bigger picture, because the bigger picture is how, and this is one of the questions I think that stops people doing a lot of things, because you always ask yourself, how am I going to get this? How am I going to do that? So this is the old mechanism, but I just use it as a word, you know, just a word to me. I don't use it in any context, but in this context, I will say, how do then we get everyone to unite as one, as this movement seems to want, because we're all going in the same direction? How do we then get everyone united in that oneness to then to manifest the changes that we're looking for? And this is
and that's the $64 million question, isn't it?
Absolutely. And I mean, a lot of people are looking for this answer, and a lot of people there is no answer to it, but there is a way we can work towards doing that, right? So
Yeah.
this is all I'm trying to say to my global beings out there is the fact this is
But
something.
this is the thing. The moment you have something like, say, the OPPT, when it first, which is now no longer called the One People's Public Trust, I believe now it's the One People because the trust has been collapsed, right?
Exactly right, yeah.
So it did what it had to do. It was established for a purpose. It achieved its purpose. It's no longer necessary. But that is really the answer. I mean, that was just. I mean, the bits of paper that they produced, right? The UCC filings that they produced, really just put in words on an official document that the 3D world recognises.
That's right.
That says, "I am a being of my creator."
Yep. Exactly. Exactly. It's just the tool they used to reach the goal they wanted to reach.
Yeah.
That's really what it was.
But the truth is, there's a lot of people out there that already knew this anyway, didn't need it in a document, and didn't need to justify this in a legal sense. So I think, Heather's, and I don't know, I could be wrong, I'm just guessing, but to me it seems like Heather produced these documents to sort of trigger that awakening for some people. Because some people need to see it.
Yeah, exactly.
So, and what I mean by need to see it, take money, for example, right? Well, I understand, and I know from talking to you that you understand that the money itself is not the value, that we are the value.
Yeah.
And just as a 3D example, if you wanted to build a bridge over a river, throwing a whole lot of, cash into the river isn't going to manifest the bridge.
Exactly.
It's us actually putting our energy and our time, which is our value, which really is our currency, our energy, our currency. Think about that, right?
Yeah.
The word currency, current, electrical current. We're a walking, a vertical, we're electrical current and water.
Yeah. Rena, I've got a couple of callers.
Yeah.
1 second, I'll just take them. Caller 1451, are you there? Caller 1451. Okay, he's gone. I've got another caller here, caller 8082. How you going? Are you there? Okay, they've both dropped out. It's fine.
So what I was saying about, needing that bit of paper, people think that bit of paper is actually what's going to create the bridge. It's not the bit of paper. We are the value. That bit of paper just represents our currency, our energy. It's it's a physical manifestation it's a physical representation of our sweat equity.
Yeah.
Every dollar you have is a physical representation, whether it be digits in your account or actual cash in your hand.
Yeah.
It is a physical representation of your sweat equity, of your energy, of your own currency.
Yeah. Sorry, Rena, I'm just going to try these callers again because they've come back on. First caller 1451. Are you there? Sorry for you holding so long. Are you there? Okay, no, he's not there. That's fine. It just keeps popping back up. That's fine. So sorry, Rena, go ahead. Go ahead.
So where I was going with that is, trying to sort of draw parallels between having something physical that people can actually see to understand that they are the value.
Yeah.
So what Heather has done is she's put in those documents.
Yeah.
She's put in the bits of paper that people need to see.
Yeah.
And these bits of paper go into a system that most people recognise, which is our legal system.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of people have said that the UCC filings don't relate to us because UCC is the Bible of commerce. It's the Bible of commerce that the Americans use. It's the Uniform Commercial Code and that sort of thing. But that's completely untrue.
Yeah, it is.
In fact, I think I had sent you the link for this. The Article 9 of the UCC law was actually introduced in Australia in 2007.
Yeah.
And it replaced 72 Commonwealth Acts.
Yeah. Yeah, it actually unified commerce all over the world, basically, didn't it?
Well,
it joined us to it, yeah.
Well, it didn't join us to it. We actually were always using it anyway. And the reason that...
I explained that a bit differently, sorry.
So UCC law, or the Uniform Commercial Code, is necessary, for instance... I mean, let's say, for instance, Australia sends, a whole shipment of goods to China.
Yep.
And for whatever reason, the company that's meant to pay for them doesn't.
Mm-hmm.
Now, where are you going to have this trade heard if it goes wrong? Are you going to hear it? Does it come under the jurisdiction of Australian courts, or does it come under the jurisdiction of Chinese courts?
Yeah.
And of course, each country has different laws. So the purpose of the Uniform Commercial Code is obviously to provide exactly what it says, a uniform code that governs commerce.
Yeah, it's actually what guides and governs what every business on this planet does. I mean,
absolutely.
It's like checks and balances, basically, for
absolutely.
commerce. And
our banks use it. I think Scott Bartle actually put out a really great video. I think it's called "What the FUQ."
Yeah. Now, if anyone's not familiar with Scott Bartle is here in Australia. He's over in Western Australia. He's done some great work. He's done a video called "What the FUQ," and I recommend everyone go and watch that, because it's just an amazing journey he had. So he was actually one of the guys that wrote some of the courtesy notices with Ken Bartle. So they put some of them together.
Well, I believe it was he and his father Ken who formulated the courtesy notices to begin with. Yeah. Right.
So I mean, he's had first-hand experience in the OP. So that's an amazing tool as well. So, oh no, hang on. So hang on a minute. I have a problem here. But anyway, we'll carry on.
I can hear you.
Yeah, you can hear me. Okay.
Have you dropped out?
I think I have, yeah.
No, you haven't. I've got here that you're still on.
Okay, good. We're still on. Somebody else just sent me a text. But that's all right. Fine. So,
he's got bad reception in that spaceship of his.
Maybe.
Yeah. Interfering with everything.
Maybe it has. But okay, he's put me off there a bit. But yeah, so it's just an amazing journey that we've all been undertaking, really, when it comes to all of this.
Definitely.
So it's one of these journeys that I think everyone has to realise for themselves. We can't say to you, "Oh, you need to wake up, you need to do this, you need to do that," because it's not for us to do that. I mean, we all have to realise now that we've been given the tools. Now, all I would say is forget everything that's been done with the OP as the paperwork is concerned. Because people are out there trying to study the paperwork and trying to get how they work and all that. But really, essentially, it's not about how much you can learn from the paperwork. It's about using the tools you've been given and the tools that you already had to realise your potential. This is now what we really need to do.
Yeah, and when you realise how much of what we are has been usurped by, I guess I don't refer to them as the powers that be, because they're the powers that were. Yeah. It's mind-boggling, but it's hidden so well. Like, it's hidden extremely well. And I'm sure you've heard this expression probably 1,000 times if you've researched along the same lines that I have, of the truth is always in plain sight.
Yeah.
And that's the best. That is the best place to hide anything. To hide it in plain sight. Everything is hidden in plain sight.
Yeah.
And I'm as you know, I'm working on part 2 of Pirates of the Suburbs, and I was just doing some text for, part of the audio where I explain what trusts are and how that relates to local government and government in general.
Yeah.
And things that weren't really obvious at first become so in your face that you're like, well, how come I didn't see this before?
Yeah.
This is just such an overt crime. It's in your face. They're doing it,
Yeah.
And it's like, how come I didn't see it like this before?
Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah, it's one of it's one of these things that you think it's like a slap in the face, isn't it? You sort of think, well, God, what's going on here?
I mean, well, basically that's what the OPPD did. They created a proper trust. So in a trust, I mean, you've got to imagine. I don't know how many of the listeners know the basics of a trust, but you essentially have the grantor or the executor, the trustee,
and the beneficiary.
So you've got to imagine like a triangle. So imagine a triangle, right? So you've got the grantor, the executor at the top.
Yeah.
You've got on the right-hand side of the triangle, just imagine, that's the trustee.
Yeah.
And then on the left, on the bottom of the triangle, you've got the beneficiary.
Yeah.
So in that kind of scenario, the grantor is always the person who grants, I guess for want of a better word, the assets to the trust.
Yeah,
he
creates the actual trust, yeah.
Yeah, like your parents, they might put an estate or something into the trust, so then they become the grantors of the trust.
Yeah.
And so this is, I mean, trusts are far more complex than this. So this is a really, really, really simplified kind of explanation of trust.
Yeah.
Then you've got the trustees, and that might be, say, in a situation where your parents might set up a trust with an estate in it. They might appoint, say, the accountant or a solicitor or something to the trust as a trustee.
Yeah.
And then the beneficiaries are obviously you and your siblings. So the trustee can't actually do anything other than act as basically manage the trust.
Yeah.
So if the trustee were to do something like, I don't know, maybe sell one of the properties without the permission of the beneficiaries or you or your siblings, that would be a breach of trust.
Of course, yeah.
And the same thing kind of applies to our government. We're in a trust situation, so you have the monarch, and there's always an agreement in the trust, and that agreement would come, say, from your parents. In the example of, the one with your parents, that agreement might come from your parents. That might be in the form of a last will and testament, for instance.
Yeah.
And that basically outlines how the trust will be governed, and the trustee is the person who's responsible for making sure that the rules and the agreement of the trust are carried out properly.
That's right.
That's the trustee's job.
Yeah.
So when you're talking about a trust in a government situation, so you've got the grantor at the top, which is, the Queen Elizabeth. Now, the reason why you have to know a little bit about the Constitution, why the Queen is grantor of the trust, but just to put it in really simple terms, simply it's because that, they're considered to have divine right.
Yeah.
They're considered to be the Earth's representative of God or the Creator.
Yeah.
And she's also the supreme sovereign, and because it was a fleet of British subjects that discovered the land, it then comes under her dominion.
Yeah.
Then she grants the right to her subjects to basically be on the land as if they are hers. So they have the British subjects have the same rights as the Queen.
Yeah.
So we are in fact sort of de facto guarantors, if you like. So we're at the top of the trust in a government situation.
Well, this all starts, doesn't it, from your birth? I mean, this is where the trust all starts from. I mean, we're just not told about this. I mean,
no, we're not.
I'm sure that a lot of the listeners out there are very familiar with Strawman and all of that sort of stuff. But really, what we've actually experienced, whether we have physically or actually seen this, what we've actually experienced is that the powers that were have actually usurped that trust. And what they're doing is spend it as fast as possible.
They have, and that's what I was about to explain. I'm about to explain a really crazy situation, right? Yeah. And so, and in this trust, so in this government trust, you've got the Constitution, which is the same as the last will and testament of your parents in that kind of trust.
Yeah.
The Constitution is basically the document or the contract that essentially outlines how the trustees that we appoint, which according to the Constitution is an elected government, how they have to manage this trust. Now, this is a public trust, right?
That's right, yeah.
And this document also outlines information about the trustees, which is, the government, how they have to be structured. We've got a Governor-General and all that sort of stuff. But basically all they do is they perform like an administrative service in order to return the benefits to us, the Australian people, who are the beneficiaries.
Well, that's always the way it was meant to be.
That's the way it's meant to be, yeah, that's right. So, I mean, that's the way that it should, at least it should work.
Yeah.
And, we're supposed to enjoy benefits like, the maintenance of our roads and our schools and public health services and transport and all sorts of stuff.
Can I just jump in there? Because what we have to realise is this is not just in Australia, this is global.
This is global, yeah. The trust
situation...
Trust
is actually global, and everything should already have been prepaid. Everything should have already been pre-authorised. But now, when I can marry this now to the One People, because this is what the One People have actually now realised in paperwork with this, the powers that were, or the powers that, the powers of be, so they think. They need to see things like that, right? Because then it looks like, okay, this is on paper now. This makes it legit. But no, this has already been legit. It's already been like this for a long time. Yeah. But now we've just come to that realisation. Yeah.
Essentially what the OPCT have done is they've acknowledged that there's been a breach of trust by all the governments of the world, and I think it's called the Bullet Report or something, or the Bullet Financial Report.
Isn't it? Is that what you're talking about?
Well, it's a document that essentially talks about the International Bank of Settlements, the International Monetary Fund, the IBS, the World Bank, how they've manipulated sovereign currency, how they've turned us into debt slaves and that sort of thing.
Oh, that was a Paradigm Report. Yeah,
that's it. Yeah,
that was what Heather and a few of her colleagues did.
Yeah, that was a year-long investigation.
Oh, for years.
Yeah. So going back to this trust, so I'm talking about this now from an Australian perspective, but this does actually apply to every government. And when I explain something, you'll understand how it applies to every government, because what I'm about to describe on what you could might view as a micro scale actually applies on a macro scale.
Yeah.
So the Australian people in the trust, as I said, are the beneficiaries. We're meant to be the beneficiaries.
We're meant to be, yeah.
Meant to be. So just like all trusts, the assets of the trust, for want of a better word, whether they be our minerals, our gas, water, everything in the trust, including the land, right? That's part of the trust.
Yeah.
Because it's held in trust.
Yeah, of course.
Beneficiaries. So, and what it means that anything that's held in trust must be shared equally amongst its beneficiaries.
Yeah.
Now, we know that doesn't happen in Australia.
No, of course not, no.
Nothing's shared equally. It's get what you can kind of thing, dog eat dog.
Yeah.
So I know most of the people listening now can already see problems, huge problems with the trust, because the reality that we know is very, very different.
Oh, yeah.
Now, imagine for a moment, so that's the basic structure of a trust, right? Now, imagine for a moment the following scenario. Now, what I'm about to say sounds like the craziest scenario, right? But just stay with me on it.
Okay.
Imagine for a moment that with your permission and agreement, with you as the beneficiary, a trust was created by, I don't know, some individual that you agreed would be the grantor,
Yeah.
right? And that the assets that were placed in that trust are properties, but the properties actually are not owned by the grantor because they've got debts on them. So that means that every single property in that trust, every single title for the properties in that trust is 100% owned by the bank, right? Let's say that one of the properties in the trust is actually a home that you live in. Now, the agreement governing the trust is that the grantor can create as many new debts as they please,
yeah,
and that you, as the beneficiary, have to repay them all.
Sure.
On top of that, the grantor at any time can transfer any of the assets of the trust, and they can transfer it to the control and benefit of any party that they choose, even a party that they've created.
Yeah.
So even a business that they've created outside the trust.
Yeah.
And if that asset that they've transferred isn't yet fully paid, you would still be compelled to meet its repayments, but the revenue from its sale will go to the grantor, not you, the beneficiary, right?
Yeah, because they've essentially turned it on its head, haven't they? They've turned trust law on its head.
You know where I'm going with this, don't you? So if that asset happened to be your home, the one that the grantor, transferred to another party that you were living in,
yeah.
Not only would you, in this situation, be compelled to continue to meet the repayments, but you would then either have to rent your own home from the home you were just living in from the buyer
Yeah.
at market rates,
Yeah.
which, according to the agreement, could be even an entity that the grantor owns himself.
That's right.
Or you would have to then go and buy another home. Now, imagine that another condition of this trust, I've lost my train of thought.
You were talking about going into a rental property after owning a house and paying the grantor, and then you were going to elaborate on that.
Yes. Okay. So, I've lost my train of thought. Okay, so another condition would be that any asset that you created of your own volition would also become a part of the trust and subject to the same conditions, right?
That's where you were. That's right. Go. Carry on.
Yeah. So, with the exception that it can't actually seize it, so this is an asset you created of your own volition. The grantor can't actually seize it unless you have a debt with the grantor or an entity created by the grantor, right?
Yeah.
So, but since the grantor can create endless debt that you ultimately have to carry either directly or through another entity it controls,
yeah.
How long do you think you'll be holding on to that asset that came about of your own volition?
Yeah.
Not
yeah.
very long, right?
Not very long, no.
Now,
it's just like a foreclosure on your bank account, just by someone coming and saying they own it.
Okay, here's another crazy rule. The grantor can change the rules at any time or create as many additional services to the properties that are in the trust as he or she likes.
Well, this is what we're talking about government here, right?
Yeah, which you can pay. You can pay these, right? Yep. The grantor can also at any time pass some or all of its power, whether for a short time or indefinitely, to another entity of its choosing.
Yeah.
Now, if you happen to pass away without fulfilling any of the debts, which is probably going to be impossible given that they can create limitless debt, which they're bound to create into perpetuity, you agree that that your children will take your place under the same terms and conditions. Now, answer this. Would anyone you know be the beneficiary or agree to be the beneficiary of a trust like the one I've just described?
Well, why not? Come on, no, of course not. Of course not.
Of course not.
No.
You'd have to be insane to commit yourself to every future generation of your lineage to perpetual debt slavery.
Yeah, but can I say something? That this is very unfortunate, what I'm going to say. And it doesn't ring true to everyone, and I'm sure it doesn't ring true to anyone listening to this show. But unfortunately, what we've got is people have been submitting their admission to it, or submission to it, without their knowledge, which is without full disclosure. So, in effect, it's not their fault that we found ourselves in this position, but and still that we still can put fault on our own beings because we missed it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, where we're going, the path we're all taking now, and hopefully it's going to be unified, will remedy this in some way. So the thing that you just said there, Rena, was a nightmare scenario.
Well, here's the crazy thing.
Yeah.
Think about local councils for a second, right?
Yeah.
And ask yourself these questions. Can your council take on debt or make borrowings and then have you repay them?
Well, apparently so, but no, I don't think they can.
Well, they can and they do.
Yeah, I know they do, but...
So our council, for instance, Melton Council, I think they're getting a loan of $2.5 million. I don't even know at what rate it's at. They're already charging the ratepayers $4.3 million to top up their own superannuation.
Yeah.
I mean, don't worry about everyone else who lost, half or 3/4 of their life savings, a week before retirement. Don't worry about them, in the global financial crisis.
Yeah. I'll just jump in, Rena, because what we have to realise is that these people actually have no empathy or compassion for anyone. They're a different breed of people. Unfortunately, these people have no empathetic bone in their body. When it comes to foreclosures of people's houses, that they've had acquisitions of land that they have no right and no claim of ownership over. Because I would touch upon one thing here that a lot of people probably know already, but I'd like to touch on it, is that we have to realise that we're all custodians of everything and anything on this planet. You cannot claim ownership of anything, and this is why I say the councils cannot claim ownership of anything, because they are what and not who. They're a company that is trying to usurp the values of the natural law of this planet. And what we have today is a group of people that are actually essentially trying to play God, trying to play the Creator, and trying to create the illusion of reality, which is what we live in today. We live in this amazing illusion. It's like the best magic trick that anyone has actually conjured up. It's like But
it's so in your face. I mean, that example that I just gave, every single one of those things that I described in that example, that that crazy example that I gave of the trust, that is exactly what we're doing.
Exactly.
We are beneficiaries of such a trust because you have, supposedly a situation where, and like I said, this doesn't only relate to local council, this relates to our government as well. They can take on as much debt as they want without our permission. You can't do that in a trust. You can't take on debt as a trustee and make the beneficiaries or someone else pay the debt. I mean, debt, when you take on debt, you are responsible for that debt. Someone else isn't responsible for that debt.
Yeah.
But what happens in our situation is that someone else takes up the debt and then we're made to pay for it.
Well, that's right.
And they can take on as much debt as they want. It's like giving a limitless credit card to your teenager and mum and dad pay the bills.
That's exactly what we're doing.
That's exactly what we're doing.
And it's in a very, very esoteric sort of way, we're paying for our own enslavement.
For our own enslavement, absolutely.
You know, and what we would say to a lot of people, and this isn't something that I would like to sort of tell people to do, but in order to get away from this ridiculous illusion of debt, is to stop doing it and stop paying it and stop acquiescing to it and stop.
No, what's stopping people from saying to their council, "You took on the debt, you freaking pay it"?
Exactly.
You know what I mean? My next door neighbour doesn't take on a mortgage and make me pay it.
That's exactly
what they're doing. I mean, you know, I think the mayor, less than a week into the job, gets a $55,000 car, and yet in Melton, which is where I live, we've got a ridiculous unemployment rate.
Yeah. I'm quite familiar with Melton area up there now, and you are. It's not a good situation for a lot of people up there. I mean, even we're finding this all over Australia now. And don't get me wrong, right? People are saying, "Oh, Australia's such a great, beautiful country." It is. What we have here is beautiful. I mean, the land, everything. It's just a beautiful place. But when you turn your attention to the the system that you live in within the cities and the towns and stuff, then you look at a completely different picture. You know, it's a completely different landscape.
Well, the reality is that you know, we live in prisons of our own making, and we think we're free because we can't see the bars.
Well, that's right, and that's a famous quote that was actually done by Aldous Huxley.
Oh, really?
Aldous Huxley's got some fantastic quotes. And he says, you know, it is possible for a man to be out of prison and yet not be free.
Oh, there you go. That's exactly the same thing.
You know, because at the end of the day, we live in these invisible prisons. We put up a little barriers. We
create them.
Yeah, we do. We put up a little objective opinions that really are irrelevant when you think about the wider picture of the conversation that is going on in the world today. I mean, you get all these what I call trolls, and I know you know what a troll is, but I call them trolls that come out and give you all this disinformation, and then a lot of people, like I'm talking about the media. I mean, the media is mainstream media anyway, is another tool that a lot of people like to hang on to because that is their perception of reality.
Yeah.
And if we can just move away from perceiving what we think reality is, and forget what it really is in your little world of commerce and debt and hardship, because at the end of the day, that is not who you are. That's not what you're meant to be. You're not meant to be on this planet to suffer and feel pain and all of this. Although they are systemic to the human race, you shouldn't have to be infringed upon by other people, and you shouldn't have to take on board other people's pain. Because
actually, and speaking of the mainstream media, there was actually just out of interest. I think I've told you. I might have. Mm-hmm. Tell me when you think this was said. This was said by a journalist by the name of John Swinton.
Yeah.
And he was actually a very well-respected journalist, and he was an award-winning journalist.
Yeah.
And he was a guest of honour at a banquet that was given in honour of him. And someone offered a toast to the independent press. And, you know, his response to that was, you know, there's no such thing as an independent press. And he said, the business of the journalist is to destroy the truth, to lie outright, to pervert, to vilify, to fawn at the feet of Mammon, to sell his country and race for his daily bread. You know it, and I know it, and what folly is this toasting an independent press? We are the tools and vassals of rich men behind the scenes. We are the jumping jacks. They pull the strings and we dance. Our talents, our possibilities, and our lives are all the property of other men. We are intellectual prostitutes.
Yeah. When do I think that was said?
Yeah, what year do you think he said that? You'll be surprised, or maybe not, I don't know.
Well, probably not last week.
You'd think so, right?
Yeah.
The year was actually 1880.
Wow.
That's crazy.
Yeah. Who
That's
said
crazy.
that? Who said that?
John Swinton.
Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah. I'm not familiar with John Swinton, but yeah,
Well,
that's
I
pretty amazing.
actually came across some of his stuff probably about a year ago, and I had found that little story about, what he had said at this particular banquet that was given in his honour.
Oh, wow.
Mm.
That's
So I thought that was still true. I couldn't believe it was said in 1880.
Well, I mean, when you think there has been some visionaries on this planet that have been saying this sort of stuff for the millennia, and it's now we're just now starting to find these texts and books and stuff that were uncovered just recently. It's just crazy sort of stuff. And excuse me, we need to. One thing I think we all need to realise, and it's up to you to realise it in your own way, but there's one thing we all need to realise is we all have this in us. We all have this creativity in us. We always paraphrase other people that have been living for 100 years, 20 years, 10 years ago. But when we start to use our creative aspects of ourselves, all of this is easy to you. I mean, I must admit, in my spare time, I write poetry and I've written a few poems and stuff. But that was just something that
great stuff, actually.
Thank you very much. But I write these things because if I don't write them, they just eat away at me. So I everything I do, I write things down. I'm one of these people that writes things down all the time. So I've only come to know what I know by actually visualizing it in a lot of ways. I mean, we know what's going on the.
Well, visualization is very powerful because you manifest through visualization.
Well, that's right. But as I say, we all have this in us. We all have this creative, wonderful part of our brain, right? That we're actually being, for all the technology we have today, all the microwaves and all this, all being sort of stopped and firewalled. This is why we, as a united force, need to come together. This is the only reason, and to actually start realising our potential. Because we are, as we've been speaking about this for a long time, Rena, but we are the most powerful source of energy on this planet.
Absolutely.
Without us, this system could not function. Without our participation, the system would fall down tomorrow.
Yeah,
so
and that's what I was talking about.
But I'm saying, Rena, the remedy is there. It really is. In that one sentence, the remedy is there. Stop participating in the game.
That's exactly what I meant by we create our own prison.
And we create our own prison by accepting it. But once you stop accepting that and stop participating in the illusion, then the illusion ceases to exist. So
I mean, it's like a factory line. The moment the workers are no longer happy and they down tools, it's all over.
That's it. What happens when you go on strike?
Up and down as much as he wants.
Yeah.
But
what happens when you go on strike? You go, right, we're downing tools. What happens to the factory that they've just gone on strike with? It doesn't do anything. It stops. So what I'm saying is we've got this machine rolling along, just rolling along lovely and smooth, until you take the air out of one wheel or one tyre. And then two, you take a bolt out of the engine. Because this is what we're trying to do. And then take the prop shaft out the bottom of the car. So the car can't go anywhere now. So what we're saying...
I can tell you've worked on cars, Robert.
Yeah, see, the thing is, it can't go anywhere.
Yeah.
So by us then turning around and fixing that machine and get it going again by our sweat equity, our money that we pay into this is the analogy I'm using. It's like you have this car and it drives along perfectly. And then a group of people come along and take a few parts out, it doesn't work. So then the people that haven't realised what this is come along and fix it again. So what we're trying to do is pull them people that keep fixing the machine, pull them over to the party, because we're all having a party over here. It's great.
Yeah.
Come over and join us. Because at the end of the day, the realisation that the machine can't work without our participation is the main reason why you're actually stop this whole thing from working. And this is what they bank on, is our participation in the
Well,
game.
not only do they bank on our participation, but they also bank on our fear if we don't participate.
And that's what drives the
Through
society.
Intimidation, threats,
Yeah.
all sorts of things.
This is what drives society. Everyone actually revels in fear, because when you think about it, they go, "Oh, if I don't pay my bill, this will get turned off and that will get turned off." That's exactly what they want. They want you to be acquiescent to their power or their authority. Where if you actually realise and stop fearing that, and realise that there is no authority and no power that they have unless you give it to them.
Yeah.
If you keep giving your soul and your energy to this corrupt system that we live in, which it is, we can all see the corruption just oozing out of this machine. You know, and then what we do is we come along with rags and we mop it all up, and then we.
Well, I love what Robert Menard said in I think it was a presentation that he did. I think it was called "Bursting the Bubbles of Government." I'm getting echoes.
That's okay.
It's really distracting.
That's all right.
I can hear myself.
Have you? It's all right. I can't hear double anyone. So.
He says, you know, something along the lines of, and this is pretty much what the OPPT say in the filings that they made when the trust was still, you know, before they had collapsed the trust.
Yeah.
Is they've produced documents that say, well, they rely on the natural trust, which is global.
Yeah.
No, the natural trust is our planet Earth.
Yeah, that's right.
Now, who grabs that? Creator. Doesn't matter who you believe the creator is.
That's right. Exactly.
But basically everyone fundamentally understands that the creator is the grantor of this trust that we call, you know, planet Earth.
And our creator left us dominion of this planet to maintain it in a good state.
Exactly.
But what we have today is people polluting this planet and trying to exhaust all the resources, all the oil, for their own gain, for their own purse, for their own pocket.
Yeah, so what the OPPT has basically said is if the Earth is part of the natural trust and the beneficiaries is humanity, then everyone should share it in equal.
Exactly right. Absolutely.
And so you've got these people who've been put in position of trust, thereby that's why they're known as trustees, who have completely turned it on its head and created the kind of insane trust I described before.
Yeah, that's right.
And so what the documents say is essentially when you send in a courtesy notice, what you're really saying is, please show me a document bearing the verifiable signature of my creator that gives you dominion over me, because if we're all born equal, then I need to see a document signed by my creator. I need to see it in wet ink signature.
Yeah.
And here's the beautiful thing. No law in any country actually defines God.
No.
There's no definition of God.
No, that's right.
So you could say, like Robert Menard says, you can call a 3-week-old tuna sandwich in your refrigerator God. Who's going to argue with you?
Yeah, that's right. I know. You can't argue to it. So it's crazy. I mean, it boggles belief, doesn't it?
Absolutely. I don't mean to interrupt you, but I heard like a little message. 90 seconds left.
Oh, that's fine. Yeah, we can carry on. It's fine.
Okay, so people that are listening live won't be able to hear the rest of it. Okay.
It'll just be recorded. But as I say, it's crazy. It really is crazy. I mean, when you actually consider what's happened, what's actually taken place since, I would say, the Federation, the what's it called, the Federal Reserve Act of 1913. That essentially just took everything from whoever had that value in the start, like as in to say we had control of the trust before that. You know what I mean?
Well, from what I understand, what that was all about was that the bankers created wars, if you like. Actually, I think it was I think it was a document that I just sent you recently as well. What I understood from that, it kind of put more pieces of the puzzle in place for me.
Oh, yeah,
what I understood,
yes.
What I understood from that was that some wealthy people who had gold loaned it to the private sort of bankers when it was, back in the day when it was backed by gold, would loan it to kings. And, of course, because they charged interest on that gold, they never had to repay the principal, but they had to pay the interest.
Yeah, the principal never touched.
These people would make money on kings, because that was who used to loan the gold when they needed it.
Yeah.
And so the only way they could get more kings, in other words, create more business for themselves, was to get more kings to borrow money from you. But how do you get kings to borrow money from you? Well, of course, you send your sons out like the Rothschilds did to create wars where they fund, every kingdom.
Well, look at the history books with Nathan Rothschild, who was like the father of the Rothschild dynasty. He actually sent agents out to give disinformation about the Waterloo War, and say that Napoleon actually won the war, which actually then made real big ripples in the banking sector.
Yeah,
everyone pulled all their money out of the bank.
Exactly.
And then what the Rothschilds did, they came up and bought the economy, or the British economy, of pennies on the dollar. So, we're looking at a huge banking takeover that has manifested itself since the Napoleon War, basically. So, I mean, these people have been in charge for hundreds of years.
A very long time.
And they're not really going to just let it go lightly,
Well, the Rothschilds are in reality just in our very recent history. So that document actually goes back to, King Solomon.
Oh, no, absolutely. But we have to look at the bloodlines of these people. We're looking at a very, very tight-knit community of bloodline lineage that we have to look at, and it goes way further back than the Egyptian mythology. You see, this is something that is systemic in the royal families, and it's very it's just so intertwined with all sorts of little pathways that go off the actual story you want to tell, so you can't actually just sit here for 5 minutes and talk about it. It's absolutely just an amazing sort of historical sort of.
It's such a deep rabbit hole, and it's got so many little offshoots to it that you could
talk to it for weeks.
Months, years.
Exactly, and there's people out there who've been trying to do this, trying to decode, as I call the Matrix, and I'm sure everyone else does. But the decoding, I believe, is actually already started. It's got a massive awakening.
I think what it comes back to is what Heather calls prime.
Yeah.
I think after all, when you've gone down all these rabbit holes and everything, you just at the end of it, you just go, well. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter who it is that's trying to extract whatever value it is from you.
Yeah.
What gives them the right to do that? How are they entitled to a portion of your value, to your sweat equity?
Yeah.
What gives them more right over you?
Well, the realisation that it actually doesn't give you more power than you actually realise.
Yeah, exactly. So once you realise, and that's what the filings have done. They've created a set of facts that have remained unrebutted, and those facts, unless people can rebut them, and the facts are that, we have the natural trust, we have the creator who is the grantor of the trust, the beneficiaries all share equally,
Yeah.
The trustees have breached their duty.
Yeah.
And as a result, all the governments and all their constitutions and everything, everything's been collapsed.
Yeah.
Everyone goes back to basics, which means that, you just go back to do no harm.
Well, I think it's fundamental now, this point of now. I think it's fundamental for us to stop participating in what you know to be a lie, because that is like someone saying to you, "Hey, look, I got $50, but it's not mine, right? But I can lend it to you, but just don't tell the person I stole it off."
Yeah.
That's essentially what it is. I mean, it's like every dollar you spend, you are actually committing an offence, because you're actually committing a federal offence, if you like to call it that, because every dollar you spend is a fiat currency. Of a currency that doesn't actually exist, means that you are then
distribution of debt.
Yes, you are then distributing the debt that someone else has accumulated. So then you are then, by definition, you are now privy to that plan of debt slavery. So by you then sort of perpetuating the slavery system, means that you are now part of that slavery system, that you have actually. You've been a formulator of a slavery system where you think you're not, because you think what you're doing is good.
Well, you're participating in it.
But you don't know you're participating in it. So in that respect, it doesn't make it your fault. But what you're doing is you're not recognising that that's what's happening.
Yeah, well, the courtesy notices, I think, pretty much spell that out. And a lot of people do write cover letters for the courtesy notices that they send out.
Yeah, do you know, I must say that I'm getting a lot of calls. I've done a few things on Facebook, and it's like, it's just what I do. But I'm getting a lot of people who really don't still quite understand how to use it, because I don't call it paperwork, I call it a technology. Because we are using a technology with what you have to offer as your being.
Yeah.
We're talking about energetic intent. We're not talking about
Max Igan actually puts it very succinctly.
Yeah.
He says, what we're doing is we're paying to be alive.
Yeah, that's right.
To go from point A to point B,
yeah.
You've got to pay a road toll. Now,
do you think a tree has to pay rent to be a tree?
Yeah. Does it have to pay rent for that bit of land?
Because it's grass? No.
Yeah. Does it have to pay a license fee to the council to grow in that spot?
Exactly.
Does it have to pay carbon tax?
You're a tree. You'll pay carbon tax because you're.
Yeah. And that's basically what it is. And so the question then becomes, why do I have to pay you to get permission? If this piece of land, I've agreed to be the custodian of this piece of land, and I can, and see that's actually. I was talking to you about this, and you said to me, "Oh, Max just did a whole show on it, talking about the concept of owning land."
Yeah,
if you think about it, if you own land,
that video he done was great. It was just amazing.
It was, and I can't remember the name of it.
If people, just for the people out there that are going to be listening to this recording, Max Igan is an Australian, is a web radio host. Just a fantastic guy. I've had the pleasure of meeting him. He's just such a down to earth, centered guy. He's an amazing bloke. He's doing some great work, and he's really, really helping people do a lot of soul searching, because he touches on some great issues that no one else out there is doing. So,
and just really common sense stuff, like
Max
really.
Igan is one of these guys I really do believe will change things for the better. because
Absolutely.
he really has that focus and that passion to do it. I mean, so
you can go to
Max
his
is great.
YouTube channel. For those listening, if you want to go to his YouTube channel, it's youtube.com/The Crow House.
Yeah. So that's a little plug for Max. Good on you, Max.
Hi, Max, if you're listening.
Yeah. Hi, Max. Yeah, but as I said, so you know, these all these things are systemic to a virus in our society.
Yeah, well, he calls them pathogens, right?
Yeah, that's right.
But he was talking about something that we were talking about, which was that, you know, this concept of ownership. I mean, seriously, how can you own land? You're here for a short time. How long's the planet been around for?
That's right.
You know, for 4.6 billion years or something?
Yeah.
You know, you're here for like not even... You wouldn't even be seen on the scale.
No,
you know,
you wouldn't be a blip
in terms of a timeline. You wouldn't even be a blip.
No.
You know, on that, and you come along and you say, I own this.
Yeah.
What, you created it? You can only own what you created.
That's right.
The most you can be of any piece of land is a custodian.
Yeah.
But what they do is these people who extract all our energy, all our currency, and what I mean by currency is our energy. I'm not talking about the notes.
No.
You know, when they extract our energy, they do it by selling us the concept of ownership.
That's right. That's
if you're a custodian, then you have a complete... I mean, imagine you were the custodian of your land, the property that your house is on now.
Yeah.
Imagine if it was agreed in your community that, you know, in this boundary, you are the custodian of the bit of land in this boundary. Apparently, they do this in Peru anyway.
They do. They've actually got rid of all land rights as such.
There's no such thing as land ownership. What there is every person that owns land, whether it be a farm, whether it be just, you know, a piece of land that they've built a home on or whatever it is, they actually are the custodians of the land.
And now, you know, the terms and conditions of that is for them to manage it. And if it goes into disrepair, then that land is actually given to someone else. Which is good, because if you're not taking care of something that you've been given that custodianship of, then I think that it's only fair that you should let someone else.
Absolutely. I mean, if you're not going to be a good steward of that land.
Yeah.
Now imagine if that were the rule globally.
Yeah.
How many coal seam gas and fracking, first of all, wouldn't even exist.
Well, that's gonna dwindle away anyway, I do believe.
Yeah, well, I hope so, because they're doing untold damage to the aquifers, and
it's the methane gas that it sends out. This is what
and the crazy thing about it is that they're putting chemicals in there that are patented secret, like they won't even tell, not even our government.
No. You know, they're radiological. They're all sorts of really, really bad things they're putting in the soil. Do you know what they're doing to the soil? They're actually making the soil infertile.
Yeah.
So what you'll have to do then is go to these governmental bodies and ask for food and beg for food, because this is what they want us to be. They want us to be beggar type people that they can control, and they can just carry on with their big massive matrix control system. You know, and this is what they want. But what I can see from now is amazing, because we have this huge awakening. It's just been literally the last couple of months. We've had just awakening going on everywhere. I mean, we've got movements starting. We've got people starting to take action. I mean, it's amazing. Whether it be a protest, whether it be speaking out, whatever, it doesn't matter. What we can see in Turkey.
Well, I think what's more powerful than a protest is non-compliance.
Yeah, that's right.
Don't comply, you know.
What about Turkey, though? Look in Turkey. Look in all these places. There was over 2 million people that took to the street.
I saw that.
2 million people.
I saw that.
That is amazing.
Did you see the latest? I don't know if you saw the latest post about what happened in Turkey, because the government was cracking down on them, saying that they're terrorists.
Oh, anti-government protesters. Yeah, they always use that term.
But listen to this. This is what they did. And the picture is actually, I posted it on my wall.
Yeah.
And it's a picture of all the protesters. They've literally got these yoga mats out, and they're all doing like a yoga session.
Yeah.
There's like 2 million people having a yoga session.
Fantastic.
Now, that is not what I call a protest. That is what I call a checkmate.
You're summoning energy to make this negative energy just disintegrate in front of you.
Absolutely. I mean, could you just imagine riot police going in there and they're faced with like 2 million people doing yoga?
Yeah.
Or Tai Chi, you know, with yoga mats? That's just crazy.
That's awesome, yeah.
You should see the pictures. It's crazy. There's like all these, like thousands of people just doing the same pose. You know, they're obviously in the middle of doing I think they're doing Tai Chi actually, but they got yoga mats out.
All right, Rena. Well, it's great to have you on.
Thank you.
We'll carry this chat on obviously after the show, but it's been amazing. It really has been just a wild ride we've both experienced together, and it's been great.
And lots of fun.
Been a great opportunity, you know, and I've met some absolutely wonderful people along the way. But and you are one of them. So yeah, as I say, thank you very much for coming on the show, Rena, and
my pleasure.
Keep up all the good work, and I know you will.
Yes, absolutely. And when Pirates 2 is out, which I'm hoping will be in the next 2 or 3 days, provided we don't get any more distractions.
Yeah.
Which we had one yesterday, but that was a really, really good one.
Oh,
so
that's good.
That put me another day behind.
Yeah.
But, you know, everything happens for a reason. I'm thinking, you know, this was meant to be out weeks ago.
Yeah, I know.
Part 2 was meant to be out weeks ago, and I'm thinking there's obviously a good reason why it hasn't been. You know, I don't know now, but I'm sure that the answer will come at some.
Yeah. I'm sure it will.
Because everything happens when it's supposed to. So.
Yeah, that's right. Everything happens for a reason. But anyway, Rena.
Okay.
It's been great to talk to you again. And
thanks, Robert. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, and stay on the line. I'll have a chat with you after the show.
All right, no problem.
See you. Bye.
Okay, bye.
And see you, everyone. Thanks for listening. And yeah, it's been an experience for me, I must admit. And I've been very honoured to take this seat for Emilio. And I'm sure you'll see he and Emilio back next week for another show, The Remembering. Thanks, everyone, and just keep being and doing what you do, and that's all you need to do. So thanks, everyone, then. Bye-bye now.